I was staring at my phone screen for the 5th time, sitting in a cold metal seat inside a military transport plane, when the words finally sank in. "Christmas is better without you. Don't come." My father sent that. My own father. Around me, other soldiers were laughing, sleeping, talking about going home. I could hear Sergeant Matthews 2 rows back telling everyone about the apple pie his wife makes every Christmas Eve. He'd been talking about that pie for 6 months straight. I'd been talking about Christmas too, about seeing my family, about hugging my mom, about sleeping in my old bed. 4 years. That's how long it had been since I'd been home for the holidays. 4 deployments. 4 Christmases spent in desert bases, eating processed turkey and trying not to think about what I was missing. And now this. My hands were shaking. Not from the cold, even though it was freezing in the cargo hold. Not from fear, even though I'd faced plenty of that over the past 18 months. They were shaking from something else entirely. I read the message again, hoping maybe I'd misunderstood. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe my dad's phone got hacked. Maybe anything except what it obviously was. But no, the message was clear. Short. Final. I scrolled up through our previous texts. There weren't many. My family wasn't big on communication while I was deployed. I'd sent dozens of messages over the months. Thinking of you. Hope everyone's doing well. Miss you all. The responses were always brief. Busy here. Things are fine. Take care. 3 weeks ago, I'd texted them about coming home. Got my leave approved. I'll be there December 23rd. So excited to see everyone. My mom had responded, "That's nice, dear." That was it. "No, we can't wait." Or, "We've missed you so much." Just, "That's nice, dear," like I'd told her I was picking up groceries. Then, yesterday, my brother Brandon had texted, "Dad says you're coming home for Christmas. Just so you know, we've got a lot of family coming over. It might be crowded." I'd replied immediately, "I haven't seen you all in 4 years. I don't mind crowded." He never responded. And now this. From Dad. Direct and brutal. "Christmas is better without you. Don't come." I thought about everything I'd done for them while I was away. Every month, I sent home $800 from my pay. It wasn't much by civilian standards, but on military pay, it was a lot. I lived in the barracks, ate at the mess hall, and saved almost nothing so I could help them. When Brandon's car broke down 2 years ago, I sent $3,000 I'd been saving. He texted back, "Thanks," and nothing else. When Mom needed surgery last year, I sent $5,000 to help with the medical bills. She never even told me how the surgery went. I had to ask 3 times before she sent a 1-sentence response. "Recovery is going fine." I helped because that's what family does. That's what I thought family did. I looked around the plane at the other soldiers heading home. Everyone looked excited. Tired, but excited. We were all going back to people who loved us, who missed us, who wanted us there. Except apparently, I wasn't. I felt something crack inside my chest. Not my heart breaking that would come later. This was something different. This was the sound of illusions shattering. My backpack was under the seat in front of me. I reached down and pulled it onto my lap. Inside, underneath my clothes and toiletries, was a manila folder I'd been carrying for 3 months. I'd told myself I wouldn't need it, that there was some reasonable explanation, that my family would clear everything up when I got home. But now, holding my phone with my father's rejection on the screen, I opened the folder. The documents inside were 3 months old. I'd received them by accident, an email meant for my dad but sent to my old email address that was apparently still in some lawyer's system. Estate documents, property transfers, papers about my grandmother's house. Grandma Rose had died 2 years ago. I couldn't come home for the funeral. I was in the middle of training exercises and couldn't get leave approved. I'd cried alone in my barracks room while my family buried her without me. Grandma had left her house to me, and Brandon equally. That's what Mum told me in a brief phone call. She left the house to both of you kids. Split 50-50. I'd been touched. Grandma's house was beautiful, a 3-bedroom home with a garden and a porch where she used to sit and read. Worth maybe $400,000. My half would be $200,000. I'd planned to let Brandon handle everything. I was deployed. I couldn't exactly manage property from Afghanistan. I trusted my family to do right by Grandma's wishes. But then I got that email. It showed a property transfer dated 6 months after Grandma's funeral. My half of the house had been signed over to Brandon, making him the sole owner. The signature on the transfer document was supposedly mine, but I'd never signed anything. I zoomed in on the signature on my phone, studying it like I had 100 times before. It was close. Whoever forged it had done a decent job, but I knew my own signature. The C in Cassie was wrong. The loop was too big. I always made tight little loops. Someone had copied my signature from something else and used it to steal my inheritance. I'd shown the documents to Detective Laura Bennett, a military investigator I'd worked with on base. She'd looked at everything through video call, her face growing more serious with each page. "This is fraud," she'd said quietly. "Someone forged your signature to steal your inheritance. Any idea who had access to documents with your signature?" I knew. My father had everything from before I enlisted. School records, medical forms, old bank papers, everything. Laura had explained my options. I could file a legal claim, challenge the transfer, maybe get my inheritance back. But I'll be honest, she'd warned. These things take time, months, maybe years, and it'll destroy your relationship with your family. I'd thanked her and sat with the documents for days. Part of me wanted to pretend I'd never seen them. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe there was an explanation. I'd decided to wait, to go home, to talk to them face to face. Surely my dad would explain everything. But now, looking at his text, I understood something with perfect clarity. They didn't want me there because they knew. They knew I might have found out. They knew I might ask questions. It was easier to just keep me away. Christmas is better without you. Better without questions. Better without accountability. Better without the daughter they'd stolen from. I opened my laptop, pulling it out carefully in the cramped space. The soldier next to me glanced over, then went back to sleep. I opened the legal forms Detective Laura had helped me prepare. Forms to challenge the property transfer. Forms to freeze the estate. Forms to start a fraud investigation. My finger hovered over the keyboard. If I did this, there was no going back. This wasn't something you apologized your way out of. This was nuclear. I thought about Grandma Rose. She'd always told me to stand up straight and take no nonsense from anybody. She'd been tough, fair, honest. She'd wanted me to have that house. She'd put it in writing, and someone had stolen it from me. I filled out the forms carefully, making sure every detail was correct. I signed them. I scanned them using the base office equipment before we'd boarded. And I emailed them to the county clerk's office and to the lawyer Laura had recommended. The timestamp showed 11:47 p.m. local time. I opened my text messages one more time. My father's words stared back at me. "Christmas is better without you. Don't come." I typed one word. Understood. My finger hesitated over the send button for just a moment. Then I pressed it. I turned off my phone and leaned back in my seat. Around me, soldiers dreamed of home. I closed my eyes and waited for the explosion I knew was coming. 24 hours later, I was standing in an airport terminal in Germany, waiting for my connecting flight to the States. The flight from Afghanistan had been long and exhausting, but I'd slept better than I had in months. Something about making a decision, really making it, not just thinking about it, had lifted a weight off my shoulders. I turned my phone back on. It started buzzing immediately, like I'd woken up a hornet's nest. 20 missed calls, 15 voicemails, text messages flooding in so fast the notifications couldn't keep up. I sat down on a bench near my gate and started reading. The first voicemail was from my father. His voice was tight, controlled, but I could hear the anger underneath. "Cassie, I don't know what you think you're doing, but you need to call me back. Now. This is serious." The second voicemail, also Dad, but the control was slipping. "Cassie, whatever game you're playing, it ends now. Call me immediately." The third voicemail was from a number I didn't recognize. A man's voice, professional and cold. "Miss Torres, this is attorney Philip Grayson. I represent your father, Richard Torres. We need to discuss the legal documents you filed immediately. This is a serious matter. Call my office at your earliest convenience. I saved that one. Might need it later. Brandon had sent a dozen texts. Cassie, what did you do? Dad is losing his mind. Call us right now. This isn't funny. You can't just freeze the estate. We're family, Cassie. That last one almost made me laugh. Family. Right. My mother's texts were different. Longer. More desperate. Cassie, please call us. Your father is very upset. I don't understand what's happening, but we need to talk about this. Please, honey, this isn't like you. Whatever you think is going on, we can explain. Just please call us before this gets out of hand. You're tearing this family apart right before Christmas. Is that what you want? I put the phone down and rubbed my eyes. Part of me, a small, stupid part, wanted to call them, wanted to hear their explanation, wanted them to somehow make this okay, but I knew better now. I picked up the phone and called attorney Helen Cross, the lawyer Detective Laura had recommended. She answered on the second ring. Miss Torres, I've been expecting your call. You've seen the documents I filed. I have. And I've reviewed everything you sent. I need to tell you, this is one of the clearest cases of signature forgery I've seen in 20 years of practice. Something in my chest loosened. So I'm not crazy. Not even a little bit. The county clerk agreed with my assessment. They've frozen all transactions related to your grandmother's estate pending investigation. What does that mean exactly? It means your father and brother can't sell the house, can't take out loans against it, can't transfer any assets. Everything is locked down until we sort this out. Good. I need to warn you, though. Your family has hired Philip Grayson. He's expensive, and he doesn't lose quietly. He's already filed a motion to dismiss your claim. On what grounds? He's arguing that you abandoned your interest in the property by not being present, that the signature is genuinely yours and you simply don't remember signing it due to stress from military service. I felt my jaw clench. That's a lie. I know it is, and we'll prove it. But Grayson's going to make this ugly. He's already suggesting in his filings that you might be experiencing trauma-related confusion. They're going to say I'm crazy. They're going to try, but we have evidence on our side. Timeline alone proves you couldn't have signed those documents. You were in basic training on the date they claim you signed. I've already requested your military records to verify. We talked for another 10 minutes about strategy. Cross was confident, but realistic. This would take time. It would be expensive. It would hurt. I told her to move forward with everything. After I hung up, I sat there watching planes take off through the terminal windows. Families were everywhere, kids running around, parents looking exhausted but happy. Everyone going somewhere for the holidays. My phone rang. My mother. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Cassie. Mum's voice was shaking, but not with tears, with barely controlled anger. What have you done to this family? Not, how are you? Not, we need to talk. Just, accusation. Hi, Mum, I'm fine, thanks for asking. The flight from Afghanistan was long, but I'm managing. Don't be smart with me. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You filed legal papers? You froze the estate? Do you have any idea what you've done? I filed a claim because someone forged my signature to steal my inheritance. That's ridiculous. Your father would never. I have the documents, Mum. The signature isn't mine. I was in basic training when those papers say I signed them. I can prove it. Silence on the other end. But not the silence of surprise. The silence of someone caught, even if there was some. Confusion with the paperwork, Mum said carefully. That's no reason to involve lawyers. We could have handled this as a family. Could we? Because Dad's text didn't sound like he wanted to handle anything as a family. What did he say again? Christmas is better without you. He was upset. You know how he gets. Yeah, I do know. That's the problem. Mum's voice changed, became pleading. Cassie, please, think about what you're doing. This will destroy us. Brandon needs that property for his business with your father. They've already made plans. If you take it away now, Brandon needs the property I inherited. The property that's legally half mine. You weren't here. You left, Cassie. You abandoned us to go play soldier while we had to deal with everything. Grandma's funeral, the estate, all of it. The words hit harder than I expected. I was serving my country. You were running away from your responsibilities to this family. What responsibilities? Working for Dad's company, the one I never wanted to be part of. You had opportunities here, good opportunities. But no, you had to be different. You had to prove something. And now you come back and accuse us of… I'm not accusing you of anything, Mum. I'm stating facts. Someone forged my signature. Someone stole my inheritance. And the only people who had access to my signature and the documents are you, Dad, and Brandon. Another long silence. We needed the money. Mum's voice was quieter now, almost a whisper. My stomach dropped. What? Your father's business? It's been struggling. We had debts. We needed… So you decided to steal from me. We were going to pay you back. Once things stabilized, we would have made it right. You can't pay back something you took by fraud, Mum. That's not how this works. You were going to be fine anyway. You have your military pay. You don't have a family to support. Brandon has his fiancée. They're planning a wedding. They need… Stop. I stood up, my voice sharp enough that a few people nearby looked over. I lowered it. Just stop. Don't make this about Brandon's wedding or Dad's business or anything else. You forged my signature. You stole from me. And now you're trying to make me feel guilty about wanting what's legally mine. I'm trying to make you see reason. Family is more important than money. Then why did you choose money over me? Mum didn't have an answer for that. I have to board my flight, I said, even though I had another hour. Don't call me again unless you're ready to tell the truth. I hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking again, but not with sadness this time, with something cleaner, something like anger, but focused, sharp. I blocked their numbers, all of them. Dad, Mum, Brandon. Then I ordered coffee from a terminal cafe and sat down with my laptop. If they wanted to play dirty, I could dig too. I started searching public records, property transfers, business filings, tax liens. What I found made my blood run cold. My father's real estate company wasn't just struggling, it was dying. Foreclosures, lawsuits, creditors circling like sharks. And 6 months ago, right when my inheritance was transferred to Brandon, the company received a cash infusion of $180,000 from something called BT Investments. I searched for BT Investments, shell company, registered to Brandon's address. They'd used my stolen inheritance to save Dad's failing business. I took screenshots of everything and sent them to Attorney Cross. Her response came back in minutes. This changes everything. Call me when you land. My flight was boarding. I gathered my things and got in line. Behind me, a family was laughing about their Christmas plans. The dad was carrying a little girl on his shoulders. She was singing Jingle Bells off key. I thought about my family, about the lies, about the theft. And I realized something. I didn't have a family anymore, but I had the truth. And sometimes that had to be enough. The plane touched down in Philadelphia 12 hours later. I'd slept most of the flight, which surprised me. Usually after deployment, I couldn't sleep on planes. Too many memories of flying into danger zones. But this time, I was out before we even reached cruising altitude. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was relief at finally doing something instead of just accepting how things were. I took a shuttle to a small hotel outside my hometown. Not in town I wasn't ready to risk running into anyone I knew. Just close enough that I could get to meetings with Attorney Cross. The hotel room was basic. Clean bed, TV that probably got 5 channels, bathroom the size of a closet. After 18 months in Afghanistan, it felt like luxury. I unplugged my phone from the charger and looked at the screen. Even with their numbers blocked, I could see the attempted calls in my call log. 17 more tries while I was in the air. There was also a message from Detective Laura. Heard you pulled the trigger. Proud of you, soldier. They'll try to break you down. Don't let them. I texted back. They already broke me down once, not giving them a second chance. Then I called Attorney Cross like she'd asked. Cassie. Good timing. I just got off the phone with the district attorney's office. My heart jumped. The DA? Why? Because what your family did isn't just civil fraud. It's criminal. Elder abuse, financial exploitation of a vulnerable person, conspiracy to commit fraud. With the evidence you sent me, the shell company, the money trail, the forged signatures, we have enough to pursue criminal charges. I sat down on the bed, trying to process that. Criminal charges means... It means your father could go to prison. Your brother too, potentially. And your mother, if we can prove she was involved in the planning. Prison. My father in prison. I waited for guilt to hit me. It didn't come. What do you need from me? I asked. Right now? Nothing. I'm filing an amended complaint that includes all this new evidence. The DA will start their own investigation. But Cassie, I need to ask, are you sure you want to go this far? Once we involve criminal prosecution, there's no going back. Your family will never forgive you. They stole from me and told me not to come home for Christmas, I said quietly. There's nothing to go back to. All right then. We move forward. After hanging up, I sat in that hotel room for a long time, just thinking about my grandmother, about the years I'd spent trying to be good enough for parents who saw me as a disappointment, about every dollar I'd sent home, every missed holiday, every time I'd chosen to believe the best about them. My phone buzzed. A new email. The sender was someone named Margaret Wilson. The subject line read, "About your grandmother." I opened it carefully, half expecting some kind of trap. Dear Cassie, you don't know me, but I was your grandmother Rose's best friend for 40 years. I heard about the legal situation with the estate, and I think we need to talk. I have information about your grandmother's final wishes that you need to know. Information about your father that might help your case. Can we meet? I'm in town through the holidays. Please call me at the number below. Margaret Wilson. I stared at the email for a full minute. Then I called the number. An older woman answered. Hello, Mrs. Wilson. This is Cassie Torres. Oh, Cassie, thank you for calling. I wasn't sure you would. Your email said you knew my grandmother. I did. We were best friends since our kids were little. I was with her the day before she died. Margaret's voice caught slightly. She talked about you. She was worried about what would happen after she was gone. Worried how? She knew your father had been stealing from her. She'd hired a private investigator. She had evidence of everything. Forged checks, property he sold without permission, money he took. She was planning to cut him out of her will completely. I stood up, pacing the small hotel room. What? Why didn't she? The cancer moved too fast. She died before she could change the will legally. But she made me promise something. She made me promise that if anything suspicious happened with the estate, I'd find you and tell you the truth. Can we meet in person? Yes, that's why I'm calling. I have documents, letters, things your grandmother wanted you to have. We agreed to meet the next morning at a coffee shop downtown. I barely slept that night. I kept thinking about my grandmother in her last days, knowing her son was stealing from her, knowing she was running out of time to protect her grandchildren. The next morning, I arrived at the coffee shop, 30 minutes early. Margaret was already there, a woman in her 70s with sharp eyes and a kind face. She had a manila folder on the table in front of her. Cassie, she stood when she saw me. You look just like your grandmother when she was young. We sat down. Margaret didn't waste time. She slid the folder across the table. Everything is in here. Bank statements showing where your father forged your grandmother's signature. Photos of documents. A full investigator's report covering 6 years of financial abuse. She paused. And a letter. From Rose to you. My hands shook as I opened the folder. The letter was on top, written in my grandmother's neat handwriting. To my dearest Cassie, if you're reading this, it means I ran out of time to protect you properly. Your father is not the man you think he is. For 6 years, I watched him steal from me. Small amounts at first, 200 here, 500 there. He thought I wouldn't notice because I'm old. But I noticed everything. He would visit every Tuesday for lunch, but really he was going through my checkbook when I went to the bathroom. He forged my signature on 3 checks totaling $34,000. When I confronted him, he cried and said his business was failing and he'd pay me back. He never did. I hired a private investigator named Thomas Kirk. Everything he found is in these files. Your father sold my car without asking the car your grandfather restored and pocketed $8,000. He took out a credit card in my name and ran up $15,000 in debt. He convinced me to sign papers I didn't understand, and later I found out he'd transferred one of my rental properties to his name. I was going to prosecute him, Cassie. I was going to send my own son to jail. But then I got sick. The cancer moved fast. I spent my last weeks trying to protect what was left for you and Brandon. I changed my will to split everything equally, thinking at least you'd get something, but I fear your father will find a way to take your share too. He always finds a way. He's charming and manipulative, and he has no conscience when it comes to money. If you're reading this, fight back. Don't let him take what's yours. You're strong, Cassie. You're nothing like him. You're like your grandfather, honest, brave, and true. I love you. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you better. Grandma rose. Tears were running down my face. I couldn't stop them. Margaret handed me a napkin. She wanted you to know the truth. She was afraid your father would manipulate you, make you think you were wrong to question him. I wiped my eyes and looked through the rest of the folder. Bank statements with forged signatures circled in red. Photos of documents. A detailed investigator's report with dates, amounts, methods. There's something else, Margaret said. She pulled out another paper. This is a draft of your grandmother's final will, the one she planned to file 2 weeks before she died. She was going to leave everything to you, nothing to your father or Brandon. But she died before she could make it legal. The document showed exactly what Margaret said, everything to Cassie Marie Torres. Your father found the draft after she died, Margaret continued. He called me and said, the crazy old woman's last desperate attempt is taken care of. He destroyed it, but I'd already made a copy. I looked at Margaret. Why didn't you come forward before? She looked down at her coffee. Because your father threatened me. He came to my house and said if I ever spoke about your grandmother's delusions, he'd sue me for defamation. He was very convincing, very intimidating. I was scared. But you're here now. Because you're fighting back. And Rose would want me to help you. She reached across and squeezed my hand. Your grandmother loved your father, despite everything, but she loved you more. She told me you were the only one with a good heart. I photographed every document, sent them all to Attorney Cross. She called back within minutes. Cassie, this is it. This is everything we need. With this evidence, we don't just have fraud. We have a pattern of elder abuse going back years. The DA will absolutely move forward with charges. Do it, I said. Are you certain? There's no coming back from this. I thought about my grandmother's letter, about her trying to protect me even while dying, about my father destroying her final wishes. I'm certain. That afternoon, Attorney Cross filed emergency motions with all the new evidence. She also sent copies to the district attorney's office with a formal complaint of elder abuse and financial exploitation. Within 2 hours, my phone still, with their numbers blocked, showed 15 attempted calls. That evening, I got an email from Brandon's account. No words, just a screenshot of a news article. The headline read, Local businessman under investigation for elder abuse. They'd leaked it to the press, probably trying to get ahead of the story somehow, but it was too late. The truth was out. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Cassie. My father's voice. Quiet. Almost broken. We need to talk. No, we don't. Please, just 5 minutes. You owe me that much. I owe you nothing. Then he said something that changed everything. I'll give you $100,000 to drop this. Cash, today. And I knew I had him cornered. $100,000. I repeated, keeping my voice flat. Cash. Today? Yes. My father's voice was eager now, sensing an opening. We can meet somewhere. I'll bring the money. You drop the charges, and we all move on. I almost laughed. Dad, you don't have $100,000. Silence on the other end. Your company is drowning in debt, I continued, walking to the hotel window and looking out at the parking lot. 3 properties in foreclosure. Tax liens. Creditors calling. I did my homework. You're offering me money you don't have. How did you? He stopped himself. When he spoke again, his voice was harder. You've been digging into my business? Public records. Anyone can look them up. I learned a lot helping other soldiers protect themselves from family members who tried to steal from them while they were deployed. Another pause. What do you want then? If not money, I want you to tell me why. Why what? Why you stole from your own mother while she was dying. Why you forged my signature. Why you told me not to come home for Christmas. My voice stayed calm, but I could feel anger burning underneath like coals. I want to understand what kind of person does that to their own family. You wouldn't understand. You were never here. You never saw how hard it was. I was in Afghanistan, Dad, saving lives. Don't talk to me about hard. His voice rose. You embarrassed us. My daughter, cleaning bedpans in the army instead of using her degree. Do you know what people said? Do you know how that looked? I'm a trauma medic. I save soldiers' lives. That's not embarrassing. It's not what we planned for you. You had a future with the company, a real career. But no, you had to be different. You had to rebel. Choosing my own path isn't rebellion. It's selfish. He was yelling now. You left us to deal with everything. Your mother needed you. Brandon needed guidance. The business needed help. But where were you? Playing hero halfway across the world. I sent you money every month. Thousands of dollars. Money doesn't replace presence, Cassie. You weren't here when it mattered. I closed my eyes, counting to 5 before responding. So, because I wasn't physically present, you decided to steal from me. We didn't steal. We reallocated assets to where they were needed. Brandon was here. Brandon was working. Brandon was building something. You were just gone. I was serving my country. You were avoiding responsibility. His voice was cold now. All pretense of wanting to make peace was gone. And now you're trying to destroy this family because you're angry about some paperwork. Some paperwork? You forged my signature. You stole $200,000 from me. We invested it in the family business. In Brandon's future. If you'd stayed, it would have been your future too. I didn't want that future. I never did. You just couldn't accept it. Because it was a waste. The words exploded out of him. A complete waste of your potential. And now you're proving me right. You're vindictive and selfish. And you're going to destroy everything we built over your hurt feelings. Something in me went very still. My hurt feelings. Yes, that's what this is. You're upset that we didn't throw you a parade when you came home. You're upset that Brandon got the property. So you're lashing out like a child. I'm upset that you committed fraud. It wasn't fraud. It was family business. But you wouldn't understand that because you're not really part of this family anymore, are you? You haven't been for years. The words should have hurt. A week ago, they would have destroyed me. But now, after everything, they just felt like confirmation. You're right, I said quietly. I'm not part of your family anymore. Maybe I never was. Cassie. His tone shifted like he realized he'd gone too far. I have evidence, Dad. Not just of the forged signature. Evidence of everything you did to Grandma. 6 years of stealing from her. Forged checks. Property you sold without permission. Credit cards you opened in her name. A private investigator documented all of it. Complete silence. She knew, I continued. Before she died, she knew what you were doing. She was going to prosecute you. She was going to cut you out of her will completely and leave everything to me. But the cancer killed her before she could make it official. That's a lie. But his voice was shaking. I have her letter. Written in her own hand. I have the investigator's report. I have bank statements. I have everything. Where did you get he? Stopped. Margaret, that interfering old. Don't. My voice was sharp. Don't you dare talk about her. She was Grandma's friend. She kept her promise. She had no right. She had every right. And now the district attorney has everything. All of it. The DA's office is opening a criminal investigation. I could hear him breathing hard on the other end of the line. This is your last chance, he said, his voice low and dangerous. Drop this now. Today. Or I will make your life hell. I have lawyers. I have resources. I will bury you in legal fees until you have nothing left. Then you'll go to jail broke. You think you're so smart, so righteous, but you're just a stupid girl who doesn't understand how the world works. I understand enough. I understand that you're a thief and a liar. I understand that you abused your dying mother and stole from your daughter. I understand that when you're backed into a corner, you try to intimidate people because you have nothing else. I'm warning you. No, Dad. I'm warning you. You have until 5 p.m. tomorrow to agree to my terms. Full ownership of Grandma's house transferred to me. Repayment of every dollar you stole from her, $57,000, according to the investigator's report. A public admission of the fraud. Brandon dissolves his shell company and returns any money gained from my property. And you all cooperate with the DA's investigation. That's insane. We'll never, or we go to trial. All of it. Civil and criminal. Every newspaper will cover it. Everyone will know what you did. Your business reputation will be destroyed completely. And when you're convicted, not if, when you'll go to prison. You're bluffing, am I? I have nothing to lose, Dad. You took everything that mattered when you told me not to come home. The house, the money that's just property. But you took the idea that my family loved me. You can't threaten me with losing something I've already lost. I hung up. My hands were steady. My breathing was calm. I felt clear-headed for the first time in days. An hour later, Attorney Cross called. Your father's lawyer just contacted me. Grayson sounds rattled. He's asking for a meeting. Tell him we'll meet, tomorrow at your office. But only if all three of them come, Dad, Mom, and Brandon. And tell him, it's not a negotiation. They either accept my terms, or we proceed to trial. Cassie, are you sure? Once we're in that room, things are going to get ugly. They're already ugly. At least this way, I get to see their faces when they realize they lost. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the meeting, about facing all three of them in one room. Around midnight, I got a text from an unknown number that I hadn't blocked. This is Brandon. Please don't do this. Dad made mistakes, but he's still our father. Mom is crying every day. You're destroying our family. Is this really what you want? To be alone? I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back, I'm not destroying the family. You all did that when you chose money over me. And I'm not alone. I have people who actually care about me. They're called friends. You should try having some who aren't using you. I blocked the number. The next morning, I dressed carefully. My Class A Army uniform, the formal one I'd only worn a handful of times. If they wanted to make me feel small, I'd remind them exactly who I was. I arrived at Attorney Cross's office at 9:30. The receptionist's eyes widened when she saw my uniform. Miss Torres? That's me. They're already here. In the conference room. I followed her down a hallway. Through the glass walls, I could see them, my father, mother, and Brandon sitting on one side of a long table. Attorney Grayson sat at the head, looking through papers. Attorney Cross met me at the door. Ready? She asked. Ready. We walked in together. My father looked older, greyer. He wouldn't meet my eyes. My mother had been crying. Her eyes were red and puffy. She looked at me with something between anger and desperation. Brandon looked furious. His jaw was tight, hands clenched on the table. Attorney Grayson stood. Miss Torres, thank you for coming. Please sit. I sat down across from my family. Attorney Cross sat beside me. Let's get started, Grayson said, pulling out a folder. My clients are willing to discuss a settlement. No, I interrupted. Before anyone talks about settlements, I want to hear from him. I pointed at my father. I want to hear you explain why you did this. The room went silent. My father finally looked at me. And what he said next made everything crystal clear. It was business, he said simply. Nothing personal. I stared at my father across that polished conference table. Business. Nothing personal. That's right. Attorney Cross put a hand on my arm, but I shook it off. I needed to hear this. All of it. You stole from your dying mother for business, I said slowly. You forged my signature and took my inheritance for business. You told me not to come home for Christmas, for business. You're oversimplifying. Then explain it to me. Make me understand how any of that was just business. My father leaned back in his chair. For a moment, he looked almost relieved, like he'd been waiting years to say this. You left, he said. You chose the military over this family, over the business I built, over everything we planned for you. So yes, when decisions needed to be made, we made them without you. I didn't leave. I served. Same thing from where I'm sitting. Brandon stayed. Brandon worked. Brandon helped build something. You sent some money and expected us to be grateful. My mother spoke up, her voice shaking. Cassie, please. We needed that property. The business was failing. We would have lost everything. So you decided I should lose everything instead. You were going to be fine. Her voice rose. You're strong. You always land on your feet. Brandon needed help. He's not like you. He needs support. I looked at my brother. What about you, Brandon? You have anything to say? He met my eyes, and I saw something there I'd never noticed before. Not guilt. Resentment. Yeah, I have something to say, he said. You act like you're so noble. Like joining the army made you better than us. But you just ran away. You didn't want to do the hard work of building a business, so you left. And now you're mad that we didn't save your seat at the table. I never wanted a seat at that table. Exactly. You didn't want it. So why do you care what we did with the property? Because it was mine. Because Grandma left it to me. Grandma was manipulated by that woman Margaret in her final days. She wasn't thinking clearly. I pulled out a folder from my bag. Slowly, deliberately, I opened it and took out the documents Margaret had given me. These are bank statements, I said, sliding them across the table. They show Dad forging Grandma's signature on checks. 3 checks, $34,000 total. My father's face went pale. I pulled out another document. This is a credit card statement. A card Dad opened in Grandma's name. $15,000 in charges. She never even knew it existed until the investigator found it. Where did you get those? My father demanded. Grandma hired a private investigator 6 years ago because she knew you were stealing from her. I looked at each of them. She documented everything. Every forged check. Every unauthorized property sale. Everything. Attorney Grayson cleared his throat. Miss Torres, these allegations are serious, but they're not allegations. They're facts. I pulled out another paper. This is Grandma's letter to me, written in her own hand 2 months before she died. Want me to read it out loud? No, my mother whispered. She knew what you were doing, Dad. She was going to prosecute you. She was going to send you to jail. But the cancer killed her first. The room was completely silent. She also drafted a new will, I continued, pulling out the final document. She was going to leave everything to me. Nothing to you or Brandon. But she died before she could make it legal. I slid that across the table too. My father picked it up with shaking hands. Read it. Put it down. This changes nothing, he said, but his voice had no strength. It changes everything, because now the DA has all of this. Elder abuse, financial exploitation, conspiracy to commit fraud. You're not just facing a civil lawsuit anymore. You're facing criminal charges. My mother started crying. Real tears this time, not angry ones. Brandon pushed back from the table. This is insane. You're going to send our father to prison over money? I'm going to make sure there are consequences for what he did. To Grandma, to me. She was going to leave me nothing? My father said quietly, still staring at the draft will. Her own son? You stole from her for 6 years. What did you expect? He looked up at me, and for the first time I saw something that might have been genuine emotion. I was desperate. The business was failing. I had employees depending on me. I had debts. I thought she wouldn't miss it. She had plenty. It wasn't yours to take. She was my mother, and I'm your daughter. Did that stop you from stealing from me? He had no answer. Attorney Cross spoke up. I think we should discuss the settlement terms Miss Torres has proposed. Grayson nodded, looking relieved to move on. Yes. Let's review. Wait, my mother interrupted. Cassie, please, before we talk about legal things, just tell me, Do you really hate us this much? I looked at her, really looked at her. She seemed smaller than I remembered. Older. Tired. I don't hate you, Mum. I don't feel anything for you anymore. That's the difference. How can you say that? Because you chose. All of you chose. You chose Brandon over me. You chose money over honesty. You chose to lie and steal instead of just talking to me. Every choice you made told me exactly where I stood. So no, I don't hate you. I just don't consider you family anymore. My mother put her face in her hands. The settlement terms, Attorney Cross said firmly, bringing us back. Full ownership of the grandmother's property transferred to Miss Torres. Repayment of $57,000 in documented theft from the grandmother. Public admission of fraud. Dissolution of BT Investments. And return of funds. Full cooperation with the DA's investigation. That's surrender, not settlement, Grayson said. Yes, I agreed. It is. And if we refuse, then we go to trial. Every newspaper will cover it. Every detail will be public. Your business will be destroyed. And when you're convicted, you'll go to prison. Maybe for years. Grayson leaned over and had a whispered conversation with my father. It went on for several minutes. My father's face went through several expressions: anger, fear, resignation. Finally, Grayson sat back. We need time to consider. You have until 5 p.m. today. After that, the offer expires. We all stood. As I turned to leave, my father spoke. Cassie, I stopped but didn't turn around. I'm sorry. For what it's worth. I looked back at him. You're not sorry for what you did. You're sorry you got caught. There's a difference. I walked out. Attorney Cross caught up with me in the hallway. That was brutal. It needed to be. They'll accept. Grayson knows they have no choice. Good. We waited in Cross's office. At 4:47 p.m., Grayson called. My clients accept all terms. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. Within the week, everything was finalized. The house was transferred to my name. The money was repaid. My father had to take out a loan. But that wasn't my problem. He signed a public statement admitting to the fraud. Brandon dissolved BT Investments. The DA's investigation continued. My father eventually accepted a plea deal guilty to misdemeanor fraud, probation, restitution to the estate. No prison time, but a criminal record that would follow him forever. My mother and Brandon testified against him in exchange for immunity. The family business collapsed within 3 months. I never spoke to any of them again. On New Year's Eve, I stood in my grandmother's house one final time. I'd decided to sell it, use the money for something good. I found a note under a cabinet, hidden. My grandmother's handwriting. Dear Cassie, if you found this, it means you're in this house, which means you fought for what was yours. Good. I didn't raise a quitter. The house is just wooden walls, but what you did to get it standing up for yourself, fighting for what's right, that's what matters. I'm proud of you. You're free now. Go live your life. Love. Grandma Rose. I folded it carefully and put it in my pocket. I sold the house and created a scholarship fund for children of military families. 5 students a year. Forever, 6 months later, I was back on active duty as a trauma counselor, helping soldiers navigate family problems during deployment. On Christmas Eve, a year after that text from my father, I had dinner with Sergeant Chen and her family. Warm house, loud kids, love everywhere. You okay? Chen asked, finding me alone on the porch. Yeah, I said, and I meant it. I'm good. Still no contact? They're not my family anymore. You are. Inside, someone called my name. Aunt Cassie, come help with cookies. I went inside to warmth and laughter and people who chose to love me. I thought about my grandmother's note. Asterisk. You're free now. Go live your life. Asterisk. And finally, I was.